The Bella Flare project is thrown out the window. No more Golem. And a new scientifically plausible look now enters the picture. Jack Pierce, builds Karloff's, he builds him an overhanging brow with layers of cotton and rubber. He coats Boris' eyelids with wax and pulls his mouth out with invisible wire clamps. Pierce applies various combinations of green paint until Pierce settles on a blue-green blend that photographs gray, just like a corpse. He also decides to blacken the ends of Karloff's fingers with boot polish. The Frankenstein costume is essentially a complete kit with lead bolts for the neck and a steel spine for the back. It weighs roughly 50 pounds. The monstrous makeup will take 3.5 hours to put on in the morning and an hour and a half to remove at night. Karloff is led around by Pierce on the set with his head under a cloth, and he eats alone at the studio commissary. He's really going through an ordeal in order to play the Frankenstein monster. The film is shot entirely in an enclosed Universal Studio set with heavy lights. This is during the middle of the summer. And Karloff's eyes shows his suffering. His eyes mirror his suffering for his acting art. There's a hysterical preview once the film is completed. This is during the Christmas holiday of 1930 at Santa Barbara. There's many unhappy responses from the preview audience. Universal considerably recuts the film before its initial release. There's a major problem with the scene by the river. The monster floats flowers with his first friend, a little girl. Karloff then tries to float the little girl, who quickly sinks and drowns. The monster is saddened when the little girl sinks. During shooting, Karloff wanted to gently place the child in the water, but James Whale thought otherwise and made Karloff throw her in. There was an abrupt cut that actually made things worse, giving an awful implication when the child next appears in the movie, dead and draggled in her father's arms. The little girl scene was eventually restored to the film, along with some other cuts I'm going to talk about, for the film's 50th anniversary in 1981, and for its video release shortly afterwards. Another cut scene was when Karloff the monster is seen killing the hunchback assistant to Dr. Frankenstein, called Fritz, played by the great Dwight Fry. Karloff impales him on a hook. This was later restored to the movie. There's also a line by Dr. Frankenstein, Colin Clive. This line was cut, expunged in 1930. Now I know how it feels to be God. This was uttered just after It's Alive. It's Alive. Well, that line was cut and later restored in 1981 for the 50th anniversary. There was a new ending that was shot after the preview that shows Dr. Frankenstein, Colin Clive, recovering from his fall at the windmill. Originally he died, so they reshot it, and Colin Clive, Dr. Frankenstein, lives. While his jovial father toasts, here's to the son of the House of Frankenstein. This toast at the end of the movie was a very prophetic phrase. It's very prophetic. The foretelling of sequels yet to be born. James Whale takes utter delight in the eccentricities of human behavior in this film. The monster is a grotesque outcast. Whale creates a stark, stylish film that was obviously influenced by the scriptural and architectural, massiveness of Paul Wagner's The Golem. So The Golem still manages to influence Frankenstein. It still manages to stalk through the plot of Frankenstein, despite the implicit concept being banished by the filmmaker Whale and the studio, Universal. Colin Clive has feverish dreams of creating life from a patchwork quilt of human fragments. But the man he creates becomes a monster with immense salinity. The film is imaginative. Frankenstein shows the monster literally growing up from innocent baby as he grasps at the sunlight to a joyous child playing and throwing flowers into the lake with the little girl to a run-amok teenager. Finally, Karloff, the monster, finds himself progressively misjudged by the society that created him and becomes a savage killer. So there's a development from baby to innocent child to angry teenager to a savage killer as an adult in the movie. The movie has a weird fairy tale beauty to it, illuminated by Karloff's amazing performance. One of the greatest performances ever put in a horror film. A mutation from innocence to chilling savagery. This is shown through Karloff's limpid eyes, his cold gray body, and touchingly pathetic hand gestures. Karloff, with no more dialogue than a grunt and a groan, manages to connect with generations of movie audiences, stirring a strange sympathy within these audiences. Frankenstein is a very important film. It's very influential because the monster is put forward as an ambivalent hero. And the movie also introduces a lasting note of discreet but profound eroticism to the horror genre, and challenges as well as undermines the social conventions of the 1930s. Mary Shelley's novel had been filmed 3 times before this 1931 Universal version of Frankenstein during the silent era. For example, Edison first attempts to capture Frankenstein on film